Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Capital Control Show. I'm your host, Derek Gruning, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. Please excuse my long absence. It's been nice to get away from the podcast for a little bit and to unwind over the summer months here. But now we're back at it. We're going to be recording more and more each and every day. I hope that you're enjoying the content. If you are, I would encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends and family, just so that we can continue to grow and expand and help as many people as possible when it comes to their personal financial picture and implementing the infinite banking concept. In this video today, we're going to be talking about a risky retirement. This is one of my favorite topics, not to be the bearer of bad news, but some people, when they're heading into retirement, they don't realize all the risks that are associated with it and their portfolio, and how infinite banking can actually work in conjunction to limit many of those risks and to provide a steady stream of income during your passive income years. I've got a slideshow that goes along with this, and I'll be sharing that in the notes of the show. If you're interested, you can certainly take a look there, as well as I've linked to sources that I'm finding some of this information from. Of course, this isn't necessarily exact science, but I'm just going off of as many sources as I can to try to give a picture as to what people's retirement is looking like currently, what could be the potential retirement picture for them if they were to implement the infinite banking concept. So let's go ahead, let's get started. The first thing that you need to ask yourself is, where is your retirement income or this passive income coming from? And for most Americans, it's coming from a qualified plan or their individual retirement account, also known as an IRA. Your qualified plan will depend on if you are in the private sector or if you are in the public sector. For most people, though, it's going to be the private sector, or their 401k matched with their individual retirement account. And those are generally associated with stock market type products or bonds, potentially, even now cryptocurrencies as a potential source to grow your wealth there. However, there are other instruments like bonds or pensions, annuities, debt instruments. Anything that's providing a fixed income is a place where many people in retirement go because they want something that's steady, stable, and secure. Moreover, Social Security is a big impact for most Americans, and without it, their retirement picture could look drastically different. And what is it that we're really after in retirement anyway? I mean, sure, we want to be able to live comfortably, and the lifestyle that you might be enjoying in your working years versus what you may be enjoying in your retirement years could be vastly different. And I think, it probably makes the most sense if you can prepare for it now, try to figure out a way to have a healthy balance of living for today and living for the future. We'll continue on here. Some people use a brokerage account after they have maximized their other investment accounts like their qualified plan and IRAs. Other people stick to real estate, and it's worked very well for them. The majority of millionaires in the US have built their wealth through real estate. And there's a variety of reasons for it. One, it represents, once again, a steady stream of income. It's inflation protected. Generally, as inflation rises, rents rise, but so do the costs of servicing those buildings. If that real estate is secured with long-term debt, however, that could be an extreme advantage to those people who own that real estate, having that debt be dwindling down due to inflation as well. One of my favorite sources of potential retirement income is cash value life insurance. And why is that? Well, it's the most tax-favored type of instrument. Your 401k and IRA may be in, a portion of it may be in traditional funds, or they may be in like a Roth style account where it grows tax deferred and can be accessed income tax free during retirement years. That same is true for cash value life insurance if done properly. We can withdraw up to our basis of our total premiums paid during the length of the policy, income tax free. Essentially, it's like pulling your money back out of a bank account. But we can also access the cash value that is stored up in the policy over a number of years through a policy loan. And that loan, because it is a loan and it's not income in that sense, it is income tax free as well. And this is what many wealthy people do, especially the ultra wealthy, where they don't want to lose the asset like a stock, or they don't want to lose an asset like their life insurance policy. So instead, they'll take a loan against it, and it will be collateralized against the value of that asset. And of course, there's interest that's accruing on those loans, and that interest can fluctuate. But when designed properly, when planned accordingly, we can help mitigate that interest if we're using cash value life insurance to where there is a cap that would be set on the interest charges via policy loans. If you're interested in learning more about that, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to help. Next up, we need to ask ourselves, how much income or spending can you sustain or your portfolio sustain? And I'm using the Bureau of Labor Statistics here in 2022. They came out with a document that suggests that the median income among retirees in the U.S. is between $55,000 and $60,000 a year. After housing, this results in about $3,000 per month of net spendable income. Now, for many people, that may be comfortable. You may be fully satisfied with that, especially if you actually own your home outright by the time you reach retirement. But that's becoming more and more uncommon, and you're seeing people in their retirement years either choosing to rent in a senior living facility, or they continue to have a mortgage on their residence for whatever reason. Maybe it is for the tax write-off. That's possible, but just the value of home ownership in that sense has gone down among the generations, to where it doesn't seem like it's as big of a deal to live in your home for that long of a period of time and to stay there, have it fully paid off, and you own it. But just think about that to yourselves. Can I really live the lifestyle that I want to live in retirement with only $3,000 of net spendable income after my housing expenses are taken care of? I don't really know. And, many people, they think, oh, I'm going to be golfing every day or going to the beauty salon with your friends or playing pickleball or tennis or golf, maybe going on a cruise. This is the time, your golden years, where you want to travel and see the world. And maybe you just want to visit family if they're not nearby you. Those airfares or potentially driving across the U.S., that can rack up some bills. And so you just stop and think to yourselves, is $3,000 a month really going to be sufficient for the lifestyle that I want to live? And if not, what are the steps that I need to take in order to help get closer to those goals? And those goals may not be totally achievable based upon your income. And so you're going to have to figure out ways to either grow your income or add additional income sources via, maybe it's a side hustle or part-time job. There are other ways, of course, that you can grow income, and we have some strategies that we can employ to help you do that. And if that's something that you're interested in learning, of course, once again, reach out. We'll be happy to help. We're going to stick with these numbers, however, for much of the study here, this roughly $57,000, $55,000, $60,000 a year in income for retirees. And as we'll see, there are a couple things that are really going to blow this up. Inflation is going to be one of them, and the potential risk of losing Social Security benefit checks. We'll take a look at that towards the end of the slideshow here. But for now, just keep that in mind. We're basing this off of an income somewhere around $57,000 a year and an average net worth of around $500,000, maybe $600K among retirees, which is a very typical number that I've been seeing in some of these reports and studies that I've done. There's always going to be outliers, though, according to these statistics. There are people that are well above that, and there are people that are well below that. But for most Americans, they're probably going to be in this ballpark. Now, if you're my age, in your 30s, you may be thinking, oh, well, of course, I'm going to be doing better than my predecessors. I'm making more money in gross income compared to maybe my parents. Of course, I should have more net worth when I get to my passive income years that I can draw down in order to sustain the lifestyle that I want. I wouldn't be so arrogant about that. I would say, no, you should probably check yourself at the door and recognize that, oh, maybe I'm not as better off as I thought. Yes, your income may be greater, but your spending and your expenses have also generally increased with your income. And as we've seen in other podcast episodes, that the average annual savings rate among Americans, even around the Twin Cities metro where I am, is only $7,000 to $8,000 a year. Well, it's going to be pretty hard to get a account balance or a net worth of even $500,000 throughout your working career just by saving $7,000 or $8,000 a year. There's going to you're going to have to take other steps in order to try to reach that number. But all this to say is these are the numbers that we're sticking with for the rest of the episode here. So what are some of the biggest fears among retirees or those that are about to enter retirement? Well, it's probably not much of a surprise to you that the biggest fear is outliving their savings or outspending their savings and investments. Alongside that, you'll see that there are a number of these fears are related to their personal finances, such as either having their Social Security benefits reduced or completely eliminated. A loss of financial legacy and inheritance. I mean, just imagine that. You're going to totally spend down what you've been saving over your lifetime. And now you've got nothing left for your heirs to enjoy. I don't think that's really the best way that we should be thinking about our finances. And if we can avoid it, let's try to figure out a solution there. Lack of access to affordable health care is a big, big concern among retirees. Unable to meet their basic financial needs. So as you've seen there, the first 5 are related to personal finance. If we can eliminate that risk, that fear, that anxiety over their retirement, how much better are you going to be enjoying retirement? And I think it's going to directly impact these last 3, that you have a fear of declining health or cognitive decline that would require long-term care. Of course, long-term care is expensive. But if you're always stressing out about your finances and concerned about not having enough income in retirement, how is that going to affect your health? Those 2 things are actually directly correlated. Similarly, they have a fear of finding meaningful ways to spend time and stay involved. Well, if you've got the income available, you can enjoy the things that you want to, that you can have those meaningful experiences with the people that you love, so that you don't feel, lastly, isolated and alone, but you're actually spending time with the people that you enjoy spending time with. And money shouldn't be that obstacle there if we can avoid it and plan for it accordingly. What are the potential risks that could legitimize those fears? We're going to take a look at 5 of them here, and I would encourage you to be thinking about your financial picture alongside as we discuss these risks. If we can mitigate or eliminate these risks, then hopefully we can mitigate or eliminate these fears in retirement years. Number 1, taxes. If the majority of your passive income is taxable, you may experience a higher income tax bracket in the future, which would further reduce your net spendable income. So especially if your 401k balance has received employer contributions, those are taxable upon retirement. Furthermore, you're required to take out a minimum distribution from those accounts as well. So now all of a sudden you no longer have that exposure to the market that could potentially go up over time, but you're having to draw down more than maybe you need. And likely you're going to be paying taxes on a portion of that income that you're drawing down from those accounts. And we don't know what taxes are going to be like in the future. Hopefully they go down, but it's unlikely, in my opinion, just due to the financial world that the U.S. government has put us in. They have a tremendous debt burden. And in order to cover that debt, you have to have income. And that income comes from the citizens via taxes. And so, in my opinion, it's likely that taxes will actually increase over time. And so let's plan now so that we don't have to pay that tax if we can avoid having that unnecessary burden. Of course, we're doing this all legally. We're abiding by the tax code. And we're playing by the rules that the IRS has set for us. But taxes is a major, major concern. Number 2, market volatility. otherwise known as sequence of returns risk. And this is going to impact more the retirees that have a portion or a large portion of their portfolio tied to the stock market. What is this market volatility? Well, the stock market does not go up at a steady incline every single year. It's got bumps along the road where it goes up and down, and sometimes drastically so. Just think of 2020 when the COVID crisis hit, how that has impacted retirement accounts. So let's take a look at a graphic. What's this sequence of returns risk that I'm trying to describe here? Here on the left-hand side, you'll see some investment value there of just $100,000. And this person is going to beginning withdrawing roughly $5,000 from that account. And you'll notice in that first year alone that the return is 8%, okay? But the average return over those 15 years was 4%. And this is what many people in the financial world like to draw your attention to when they're talking about the stock market is average rates of return, right? Well, you'll see there that the average rate of return is the same both on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. However, on that right-hand side, the first year, they're getting hit with multiple years of negative returns. And if you're drawing down on this account during years where the market is down and experiencing a negative return, you're speeding up that process of dwindling that account down to zero. And you'll see the difference there from the left and the right. The investor in the blue or on the left-hand side has $70,000 more than the one on the right-hand side due to when they were withdrawing from the market-exposed accounts, and they were doing it when the market was down. So we need to think about this. Well, if I have access to income that is not tied to the stock market performance and is safe to begin to liquidate when the market is down or experiencing those negative returns, now I'm able to ride that storm a little smoother. I can then use my stock portfolio and draw against that only when the market is up. And I can draw against my other accounts when the market is down so that I'm not dwindling that stock portfolio too quickly. And I've actually hedged my bets and I've got a safe and steady stream of income from other sources. Number 3, let's talk about inflation. This comes from the website titled Trueflation. And I've really enjoyed this graph to look at what they call the U.S. aggregate inflation rate of north of 25% just from 2020, January 30th of 2020, to July 17th of 2024. We've experienced a 25.38% inflation as an aggregate over that period of time. Now, if you believe what the CPI index is telling you, you'll notice that this number and what they're saying do not match up. Well, and that's because they keep fluctuating how they define inflation and how they measure it. If you move the goalposts every time, there's no standard by which to stand on. So here is an example of not only an annual year over year, that's what generally inflation is quoted to you as, 2% and annual inflation. That's not so bad. Or 3%, that's our target, right? Well, 3% over a long period of time is a big percentage. And here, just over 4 years, we're seeing that percentage of true inflation is really around 25%. Now, how does this impact your retirement income and net spendable income? Well, your cost of living expenses are going to be going up 25% over 4 years. And you've got to have a way to combat that. And the only way to do that is to increase your income to match those living expenses. Otherwise, your quality of life goes down. And that is certainly one avenue that retirees have had to employ, is reducing their quality of life in order to just keep up with the basic necessities and the rate of inflation that those necessities are being impacted by. So what does that mean? Well, it generally means that, okay, now you're not golfing as much, or, okay, honey, we're not going on that cruise, or, oh, maybe we can't go visit the kids and the grandkids on Christmas this year. We're just going to have to send them presents, and we're not going to be able to fly out there and spend time. Well, now all of a sudden your retirement picture is kind of dreary and depressing. And that's why you see so many people having that fear in retirement of missing out on those meaningful experiences. Inflation directly impacts that. So we've got to figure out a way to have an income source that is going to keep up with inflation over this period of time. Next, the loss of Social Security. This is a big risk for people who are dependent upon Social Security for a portion of their retirement income. As you'll see here, this source from Bankrate suggests that all recipients that received Social Security payouts, their average monthly benefit was just under $1,800 a month. So imagine now that the income that you were drawing in retirement, if you were to lose Social Security, is now reduced by $1,800 a month. If you recall back to, I said your net spendable income was going to be $3,100 per month in this case, and now we're reducing it by $1,800. That's a big hit that you could potentially be losing in the quality of life in your retirement. So if you're afraid of losing Social Security, if you are truly dependent upon this, are there other methods available that you can still receive that steady, stable stream of income and even potentially have the cost of living adjustments that Social Security does have in their benefit checks? Unfortunately, that cost of living adjustments has not truly kept up with that aggregate inflation rate. And so even there, that net spendable income isn't going to go as far. Your dollar value isn't going to achieve as much the longer you're in retirement. Let's take a look here at how this truly plays out. Let's try to give some numbers. Here, I've used a calculator that demonstrates the impact that inflation would have on your net spendable income in retirement and how long you think that income can really sustain itself. So here's an example of somebody just entering retirement at age 65, and they have a life expectancy to be 90 years of age. Of course, once again, that's a risk we don't know. People are generally living longer over this period of time than just 90 years, but you got to eventually pick a number out of your hat. Their current pre-tax income was only $76,000 per year, and the income that they think they're going to need in retirement is about 75% of their current income, which is just to say that it's going to be very similar to the dollar values of that $55,000 to $60,000 per year in retirement that we linked or sourced to earlier. And we're going to give them the benefit of doubt of an average investment return of 5% per year. And of course, this is going to depend on many different factors, but I think it's a fairly safe number. And when you're talking about retirement planning, you should pick the safe, conservative numbers. With an inflation rate of only 3% per year, which I don't know about you, but I don't really believe inflation's only 3% per year. But for this example, we'll stick with it. Their other income after retirement, aka their Social Security checks, they're receiving a benefit of $1,800 per month. And their current retirement savings is $500,000. What does this add up to? Even though they're just on the precipice of retirement, they need about $200,000 more in order to live the lifestyle that they want to live. And if they can't get that number, now all of a sudden, no longer do they have that full monthly income. Now they're going to have to, they can't withdraw as much from their retirement account because it's going to run out. And so here's the example. If they truly are only at $500,000 a year, they can only retrieve $2,100 a month plus their Social Security check. So now all of a sudden you're living on about $4,000 a month, or roughly $48,000 per year, which is, $10,000 less, 20% less. Like that's going to have some impact on your retirement spending. Now, of course, if you eliminate that $1,800 per month, if you totally lose out on Social Security, that $500,000 isn't going to get you very far. Only $2,100 per month. That's not a very great retirement. You're talking about $24,000 to $25,000 per year. And if you still have a housing expense, man, things do get tight real quick. Last up, let's talk about interest rates. This is coming from the Society of Actuaries. And these are individuals that specialize in interest rates and their interest rate sources of income, like debt or bonds. These are the types of things that insurance companies are generally using premium dollars for in order to service the future death benefit needs of their policy owners. So here's a quotation from them. Lower rates may mean lower inflation, but can substantially reduce retirement income in several ways. They list 3 of them. The fact that workers' savings will not accumulate as rapidly, therefore workers must save more or work longer to accumulate an adequate long-term retirement fund. So no longer are you going to have to be able to retire at age 65. Maybe you can't retire now until age 70. Retirees earn less investment income on investments such as CDs and bonds, and thereby have reduced spendable income, and any income reinvested earns lower returns. Let's think about this. Many people, when they are in their retirement years, they want those steady, safe, stable streams of income, and rightly so. But if you're accessing them in an environment where interest rates are low, you're not going to have as much income, of course. And so what do people end up doing? They generally have to then shift to other sources, which means taking on more risk, more stock exposure, in order to retrieve the return that they think they need in order to have the lifestyle that they want, which of course comes with its own market volatility risks and sequence of returns risks that we talked about previously. How about annuities? The payouts that annuities yield will yield less income for a given lump sum purchase price when long-term interest rates are lower versus higher at the time of purchase. Imagine that, right? An insurance company is not going to promise the benefit of that steady, stable stream of income as great of an income source when interest rates are low because they don't have any assets to sustain it. They're not going to take on that extra risk. And so these annuities may not be the right solution during that period of time. In fact, annuities are the best when you can secure them with and lock in that higher interest rate environment. And hopefully we're headed back to an interest rate environment where it's going to be steady and stable for a while and elevated. But I think history is going to repeat itself. I think people are going to be clamoring for that low interest rate environment again because we're addicted to debt. And I think you're going to see policy changes in the near future regarding interest rate cuts. And so now if you're entering retirement, you may be stuck between a rock and a hard place. Is this the best interest rates we're going to get for the next 5 to 10 years? Or are interest rates going to increase in 5 years from now? If they are, maybe that means that you decide to defer purchasing an annuity for the purposes of drawing down passive income. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this episode and started to think a little bit more critically about the risks that you may endure during retirement. How do we mitigate these risks? And how can the infinite banking concept in particular address these risks? And that's going to be the topic of our next episode. If this is something that you've enjoyed and would like to learn more, please feel free to reach out. You can email me at derek@capitalcontrol.org, and I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss what your options are and how the infinite banking concept can be an alternative source of passive income in your retirement years. Thank you again for watching this episode and sharing it with your family and friends, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks.